What kind of incentives do you think you can put in place to encourage the corporate and private sector to just get on board and move ahead with this?
I think, obviously, the more we can highlight the successes of businesses that have created more parity and success because of it, but it's also pushing past the resistance, that sense that, I mean, I remember when we named a gender balanced cabinet, there were a huge number of columns and articles and opinion pieces about cabinet should be based on merit as opposed to gender balance. And then as soon as we actually named the cabinet, nobody made that merit-based argument anymore because we had such exceptional, extraordinary women in position on there. But that sense out there that it's constantly a fight against the way things have always been done. And as we see regularly, people who have power are loath to give up that power. And unfairly, men have gotten much more power than women in business, in corporate situations, in life in general. And if we are going to elevate women, some men are going to lose some power that they unjustly have. And people are always eager to fight to maintain their privileges, sometimes in more case than people are ready to fight to gain those privileges. And that's where being a he for she champion at the UN, being someone who's very outspoken, that men have an essential role to play in feminism, in equality, because like it or not, we have power that is unjustly given to us that we need to use and put in service of leveling the playing field.
Well, Gloria Steinem once said, She once said, nobody gives up power without a struggle, and that is absolutely true, is what you're saying. Now, one of the things that, has been problematic has been the families of the missing Indigenous women who feel, nothing much has happened, they feel, in this national inquiry about what has gone on there. This commission has been mired in misfires and personnel issues. Why do you think that has become such a beleaguered process for your administration?
Over the past 30 years, thousands, well over 1,000, if not thousands, of women Indigenous women and girls have gone missing. This is the kind of thing, and we often say this, if this was any other community other than Indigenous women, there would have been a hue and cry about it a long time ago. We made a commitment to launch a national public inquiry that would be focused on justice for the victims, healing for the families, and mostly putting an end to this ongoing national tragedy that unfortunately is still continuing. This is a hard thing. This is a big thing. Having a commission that will hear the stories of the loved ones who've lost their sisters, daughters, aunties, grandmas, and translate that into healing and action right across the country is difficult. And we're working with the commission, and there are a number of communities and Indigenous groups who've said, yes, this is exactly the right thing, and it's the right start, and yes, we have to work through the challenges we have, but it has to be done. It has to be done right. But the other thing is, we're not waiting until the end of the process and the report to take action concretely. We've put forward a gender-based violence strategy that does an awful lot around Indigenous women and girls. We're doing a whole bunch of things around sensitization and investments that are going to hopefully tangibly make a difference, including taking concrete actions on a particular highway that was known as the Highway of Tears. So this is a hard thing, not an easy thing, and it's something we are struggling with, but it's something we are definitely on the right track for.
Well, Christy Clark, the former British Columbia Premier, she has spoken a lot about the rank sexism that she faced in political life. And, many, many female politicians have talked about the savage online abuse that they get. Women in generally, when they stick their head up over the parapet, get this terrible online abuse and savage trolling. Do you think it's time to take any serious legislative action against these people, these kind of trolling? Is it the time to end the kind of the wild west of misogyny out there on the internet, or how do we address it?
Well, first of all, the answer is yes. We need to end the wild west of misogyny and trolling out on the internet. But you don't do that by trying to change the internet. You do that by changing attitudes. And I think one of the things that we've seen is, for some reason, the internet allows people this sense that they can say things that they wouldn't say in a physical public space or workplace. And it's those attitudes we have to go at. It's that shift in mentality. It's how we educate people. It's how we bring up our kids. It's how we model our behavior in the workplace. It's how we make sure that sexual harassment is unacceptable in the workplace, as are misogynistic jokes and water cooler talk. I mean, making sure that people are much more mindful of the impact of what they say on each other. I think one of the challenges around political correctness is people have learned sort of language they can use so that they never get called out on what they actually think or believe. And what we're seeing on the internet, unfortunately, is an amplification of a very angry minority that we otherwise might not see, but that is definitely out there. So, you know, we've taken a lot of kudos in Canada for some of the progressive approaches and the values that we espouse, but we're not a magical place. We still have the same kinds of pushbacks and nastiness that exist everywhere else around the world.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, Hillary Clinton, of course, is one of the people who's had the most abuse of any woman leader one can actually think about. And in her new book, she actually says, her book's called What Happened, and she says, what makes me such a lightning rod for fury? I'm really asking. I'm at a loss. I think it's partly because I'm a woman. You've put a lot of women in power. I mean, what is your observation?
We worked really hard to reach out and get women to run, get women that we could be bringing up into cabinet, you know, for many years to get them in. And there's still a lot more work to do to get more women in parliament, to get the numbers up closer to 40%, let alone 50%. But we're also seeing a real challenge around retention. Women who've made it, who've succeeded, who've gotten elected, are now 2 years into it and wondering, is this really what I signed up for? Because of the nastiness, because of the negativity. We have a young MP from Mississauga, Ikra Khalid. She brought forward a motion against Islamophobia and ended up experiencing death threats and a level of online violence and commentary and viral videos against her that were quite terrifying. And she went through a very difficult time in which she was really questioning, well, do I really want to be an MP anymore? And that's, and we've been supporting her, and she's beyond that, or she's made it through that. But it really is a question that a lot of people ask. I mean, and we, even in terms of the pushback we put forward, Canada, we just signed our very first free trade agreement, updated, that has a gender chapter in it with Chile. We're the first G7 nation to have a trade agreement that explicitly has a gender chapter in it. And with Chile, Michelle Bachelet, of course, former head of UN Women, the president of Chile, who's very strong on that. And we said, okay, it's going to be really important that in the renegotiated NAFTA, we make sure that there's a strong chapter on gender, because it's such an important economic issue, because it's about labor rights, it's about healthy society, it's about everything. And we're going to be pushing hard to make sure that there's a strong gender chapter in NAFTA. And the pushback we're getting is actually not from south of the border. The pushback we're getting is from Canadian Conservatives who said, oh no, this is about economics. It's about jobs renegotiating NAFTA. It's not about rhetorical flourishes of being good on environment or being good on gender. And to see that there is a supposedly responsible political party out there that still doesn't get that gender equality is a fundamental economic issue as well as many other things, that environmental responsibility is fundamentally an economic issue, highlights that we do have a lot of work still to do, even in Canada.